Okay, so just for some general background to understand where I'm coming from all this, I'm from an area that's generally very hot and humid. So we have a lot of animals that have problems with high humidity. Like whenever I started in 4-H, we started with black rabbits, and they couldn't survive. We couldn't do anything about it because it was so hot and humid. So the majority of animals have kind of these general things that you can do for them, the different species you can do, other specific things. So something that's really important is having fresh, cool water. So like I was talking about a minute ago, we have rabbits. When we go and show them at our fairgrounds, we'd actually have to bring water from home because the water at the fairgrounds was different and was really dirty and nasty, and they wouldn't drink it. So that's a good example of that sort of thing. You also want to make sure you have good air circulation, especially if you have animals that are typically kept in barns, such as rabbits, cattle, anything that could be inside for a long period of time. You want to make sure that you have air blowing through all the time, otherwise they'll just get really hot and stuffy and they won't be able to cool and have any evaporation to get any sweat off of their skin or anything like that. You also want to make sure that your pets can be sedentary on hot days. You don't want to make them go and run around a lot. That can cause them to overheat a lot faster than they would have otherwise. It's also important that if they're outside to make sure they have shade that they can go and lay in, otherwise they'll get really hot. So I have experience with some animals that other people may not. We took a lot of work with rabbits and llamas and goats. So for our rabbits, one of the first things we do whenever they first start panting, which isn't very common for them, is we will take water out of the bowls and put it on their ears. That's where they expel most of their heat, is through their ears, and it's very thin, so that's one of the fastest ways to cool them down. You can also freeze water bottles and put it in their pens. Most breeders won't do this because it ruins their hair coat. So it's very bad for the animal, but it's a very fast way of getting it cooled down.
Bad for the hair, good for the animal, right, in a sense?
Yes.
Cools them off?
It can be bad in the long run if they have it for too long of a time, though.
Okay.
So like at fair, we'll go around and make sure everyone has plenty of water and they have plenty of air blowing on them, but we will not put anything in the pens.
Okay, gotcha.
Typically it'll be people who have pets who will do that when they're pet animals instead of being for breeding uses. Otherwise, we'll allow them to take their animals home. It means they're disqualifying themselves, but we'll let them take them home. And for llamas, one of the first things we do, like at the beginning of the summer, is you shear them. A lot of people use the wool for other things, or fiber, sorry, it's fiber. But shearing is also incredibly important for making sure that they are cool. I don't know how to
Okay. There's the better one right there.
So the area right here is most important to be sheared that these have. Some people will actually go all the way up into the neck and do the legs as well, but their belly is where you get all of the heat coming out of, especially right underneath the arms between the leg and their body. That's where you would put water up underneath them if they're starting to overheat. So we do that whenever we took to the state fair a lot, is we'd have to put the water up underneath there. Now most people have dogs and cats, so hopefully you all know never to leave animals in a parked car. Even cracking the windows does not help. That is not to get enough airflow through there to actually keep them cool enough. If heat stroke does begin to occur, you do not want to use ice water on them. You want to use either cool water or you want to use room temperature water. Ice water can cause them to have a lot of other effects that can just be really bad in general. The websites are looking at what specifically what it was. But so just some general signs of what can happen is on the side over here. So if they're panting a lot more than usual, or if they're breathing really rapidly, or they won't stand up and walk around, or if they just can't stand. There's also a possibility that they can have seizures if it's really bad. There's a really long list of other things. It's also, you can also check on cats and dogs their feet to see if their pads are really hot. They put most of their heat out through those, so that's one of the other things you can do to make sure that they're okay. Don't let them stay on asphalt for a long time if it's hot, or like metal, because then they can't get the heat out through
Those metal plates on the sidewalks you see often. Yeah.
That's what I have.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, questions?
So could you, instead of putting like water on, and like I've seen this done at horse shows where they take something that's based like with methanol or ethanol that evaporates quickly, could you use that instead of putting water on to help evaporate the heat off of them?
Yeah, but you'd probably want to keep it to areas where they typically have high evaporation rates, because otherwise it might cause other problems like what using ice water would have.
Can you use alcohol, like kind of what she goes for dogs in the vet's office, if they're really, really overheated, we put alcohol in their feet, can you do the alcohol in their ears, or do you know? I
On the
have a
rabbit-
rabbit.
Are you talking about the rabbit ears?
Yeah, the rabbit ears, because that's, since it's so close, kind of for dogs, the closest thing is their pads, so we'll use alcohol in their pads. I didn't know if you could use alcohol in the rabbit's ears to cool them down.
I think we have, but we
Okay.
usually don't.
Don't? Okay.
Usually the water is enough.
Okay.
The one thing about alcohol and methanol, I think all that stuff is flammable. So you gotta be careful, and then in fairs you got hay, and so it's kinda contraindicated, I think. Maybe at a vet clinic it's controlled, so you can do more things, but at a fair, yeah, cause fairs, in the summer, I always shudder when the temperature gets high, and I think of all those animals at the fair, I really do. I'm glad you.
We send people home.
What's that?
We send people home.
Good,
if they have
and that's what
problems.
should happen. Too many, I mean, has anybody ever heard of animals dying at the fair because
Oh,
of heat
yeah.
stroke? Let me see the hands.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, probably at least half.
The barns are
When-
like ovens.
Yeah, when that happens, I go, do you really love your animal? Do you really care about the welfare of the animal? You let it die?
We'll also disqualify people if they don't come and take care of their animals, because we have people come in, because the rabbit show's on Sunday, so they'll bring in animals on Saturday, show on Sunday, and not come back until Friday.
Oh.
I don't know what
That's
they're
terrible,
thinking is
yeah.
going on there, but.
Other questions?